Hello students, let us move on to the next part of our chapter code optimization. Today we learn what are loops and flow graphs. Before considering the loop optimizations, we need to understand what constitutes a loop in a flow graph. In this aspect, we shall understand some basic concepts like the concept of dominators, natural loops, inner loops, pre-headers, and what do we mean by reducible flow graphs. Loops are the major areas where we need some optimizations. Okay, so where these loops are present? These loops are present in our control flow graph. So in the last lecture, I had given you the ideas of basic blocks and how to construct the flow graphs from there. So the control flow graph are nothing but the flow graphs, which is the CFG, which we had derived from our basic blocks. So control flow graph consists of loops, which are the major areas that need some optimization. If we can optimize that particular loop, then we may optimize our intermediate code. So this will lead to some better compiler design. The control flow graphs may contain loops which are also known as strongly connected components. Okay, a loop is a directed graph whose nodes can reach all other nodes along the same path, along the sum path. So you are already I think you have already studied what a loop is, what a graph is, what are loops in graphs. You have already known what is a directed graph, undirected graph. So same concept over here also. So basically control flow graphs may contain some loops which we will try to optimize. So how we will optimize? Based on some basic concepts, what we will study in this lecture. A loop may be structured it can also be unstructured. What is meant by unstructured loops? It means that it can contain multiple entry and multiple exit points. A structured loop is a normal loop which has only one entry point and generally it has a single point of exit. Okay, so loops are also we can see that loops are created by mapping high level source programs to intermediate code or assembly code, which are normal loops. And a go-to statement can create any loop. On the other hand, a break statement creates some additional exits. We also we have seen in our basic blocks, we have go-to statements, break statements. So if we have any go-to statement, it will create a loop. Okay, because this is a jump. It may be conditional or it can be unconditional. Break statements also, we can break any part and we can go to some other basic block. So this is also one more loop type which will create some additional exit for a single loop. So in this particular control flow graph, we see that there are 5 basic blocks: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So with this example, I am going to make you understand what is meant by a structured loop and what is meant by an unstructured loop. Over here, we see that there are basically 3 loops. First loop is between basic block 2 and basic block 3. So we are starting from basic block 2 going to basic block 3. Again we can go to basic block 2 from basic block 3. So this is one loop, 2 3 2 3 2 3. This is our loop 1, which is a structured loop because it has a single point of entry and a single point of exit. It is looping between this. Second loop is loop between basic block 2 and basic block 4, which is the structured loop because it is looping between basic block 2, basic block 4, back to basic block 2. So we have a single exit and a single entry point. The third loop, which is the unstructured loop in this case, is between 2, 3 and 4. If we consider the basic blocks between 2, 3 and 4, we see that we can loop between 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, again 2, 3, 2, 4, 2. So we don't know where to exit. There can be multiple exit points. We don't know where to begin. There can be multiple exit points. So there are different entry and different exit points. Like it was written over here, unstructured loop may contain multiple entry and multiple exit points. So basically from this one example of control flow graph, we can understand that how many loops are there. There are 2 proper loops or 2 structured loops and 1 unstructured loop. Loop 1 is between 2, 3, loop 2 is between 2, 4 and loop 3 is between 2, 3 and 4. Now we will try to understand what is meant by this term dominator. A node D dominates node N means if we write it like this, D dom N means D dominates N, Node D of a flow graph dominates node N if every path from the initial node of the flow graph to N goes through D. This is the basic definition of dominator. Means if every path from the initial node of the flow graph to N goes through D. Every node dominates itself. I'll soon explain you with one example. That time it will be clear. This is the basic definition, so you have to go through all the definitions also. Every node dominates itself and the entry of a loop dominates all nodes in the loop. Useful way of representing our dominator information is in the form of a tree, which is also known as the dominator tree. Okay. The dominator tree is a representation in which the initial node is the root and each node D dominates only its descendants in the tree. The immediate dominator M of a node N is the last dominator on the path from the initial node to N. Means M dominates N. Okay. If this M dominates N and D also dominates N, then it means there is a transitive property in this case. That means D also dominates M. Okay, M dominates N and D dominates N means D dominates M. Okay, let us see one example. So, if we consider this control flow graph, this is from your Aho Ullman Sethi book, this particular control flow graph. So, if you see over here, there are 10 basic blocks in our control flow graph. How we will understand which node is dominating the other? Over here, we can see from the definition over here, every node dominates itself and the entry of a loop dominates all nodes in the loop. Okay, and it is also known that this initial node dominates all other nodes. Okay, initial node over here is the basic block 1, right? So the basic block 1 dominates all the basic blocks in our particular control flow graph, because we have to start with this basic block 1, then only we can reach other basic blocks. Otherwise we cannot reach the other basic block, whether it be basic block 2 or basic block 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. So node 1 dominates all other nodes. So over here you see node 1 is our root and it is dominating all other nodes in our dominated tree. Over here we see that node 2 is dominating only itself. It is this dominating only itself because the control can reach any other node along a path that begins through 1, 3. See, in order to reach to 4, you need not go through 2, right? You can go to 3 because you have to go to 3. Either you go from 1 to 2 or 1 to 2 to 3. You have to go to 3. So 2 is not essential, right? So what was our definition? Node D of a flow graph dominates node N if every path, remember this, every path, okay? Every path from the initial node of the flow graph to N, from D to N, it has to go through D. If we want to reach from D to N, okay? So the path from D to N, every path means if you have to go from node 1 to node 3, then you can, if you reach directly from node 1 to node 3, node 2 is not playing any role, so it is direct. So every path, how many paths are there from 1 to 3? 2 paths, 1, 2, 3 and 1, 3. So every path is not containing this node 2. So node 2 is not dominating node 3. Neither you have any other edge which is dominating, which is generated from this node 2. Only one edge is being generated, this 2 to 3. So node 2 is not dominating node 3 because you have another path from this 1 to 3. So every path is not containing node 2. That is why node 2 is not dominating anything else except itself. Every node dominates itself. So that is why node 2 is independent. Okay. Next, you see that node 3 dominates all other nodes because you have to go through 3 if you have to travel all the nodes, only except 1 and 2. Okay. Node 3 dominates all the other nodes except nodes 1 and nodes 2. So node 3 is dominating 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 because node 3 is generating the nodes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Node 4 dominates all other nodes except 1, 2 and 3. Since all the paths from 1 must begin from 1, 3, 4, right? 1, 3, 4. It should go from 1, 3, 4, right? So 4 is dominating all other nodes except 1, 2 and 3. Nodes 5 and 6 are not dominating anyone else except themselves because we have the alternate paths. The flow of control can skip around either by going through the other. Because over here you see node 5, if we consider that it's dominating node 7, we see we have another alternate path from 6 to 7 also. So how can we understand, how can we say that 5 is dominating 7? We can also say 6 is dominating 7, so there are alternate paths, right? So due to the presence of these alternate paths, we cannot determine which node is dominating which one, hence it's considered as independent. So nodes 5 and 6 are dominating themselves. They are not dominating anyone else. Okay. Node 7 is dominating 8, 9 and 10 because from 7 only you can reach 8, then only 9 and then only 10. Okay. So how to draw the control dominated tree from this control flow graph is very simple, right? Just you have to see if there are any alternate paths. If any alternate paths are there, that means that particular node is dominating itself. And also this case where 1 is dominating 3, 1 is dominating 2, but 2 is not dominating anyone else, only itself. Okay, in order to come to node 8, we have to go through 7. Therefore, we see that 7 dominates node 8 and we also see 3 dominates node 7. Therefore, there exists some transitive property by which means we can say that node 3 also dominates node 8. Okay, this is the basic transitive property which has been told over here, that the immediate dominator M has the property that if D is not equal to M and D dom N, then D dom M. Okay. Next, we move on to the what is meant by natural loops. Natural loop is a simple loop where we have a single entry point called the header, and this entry point is dominating all other nodes in the loop, or else it cannot be the single entry to the loop, and there must at least be one way to iterate through the loop, that is there must be at least one path back to the header, right? Okay, in case of natural loops, there exists a backedge. What's meant by a backedge? Backedge is an edge from A to B whose head B dominates its tail A. Okay, what is a backedge? The definition is given over here. I will explain you with one example. The same example is given also over here. So over here you can see that there is an edge from node 7, basic block which is of node 7 to node 4. Okay. So and 4 also dominates 7. 4 dominates 7. In the dominated tree we see 4 dominates 7, as well as there is a backedge there's an edge from 7 to 4. Right. So this is only the definition of backedge. See, whose head B dominates its tail A. Given a backedge N to D, the natural loop of the edge to be D plus the set of nodes that can reach N without going through D, and the loop header is node D. So there are two conditions. The first condition is that there must be an edge from 7 to 4, means from tail to head. Okay, tail to head. Head is B and tail is A as per the definition over here. Head is 4 and tail is 7. So there is an edge from tail to head, 7 to 4. Okay, and you have the dominating property. This dominated tree, you have the dominating property which is 4 dom 7. Similarly, for 3 dom 4 also you see there is one edge from 4 to 3. 3 dominates 4, whereas there is also an edge, so there is basically one loop between 3, 4, there is a loop. So these kind of loops are known as natural loops. Another natural loop is between 7 and 10. You see there is one back edge. From 10, there is one edge to 7. Okay. So you can see that this kind of properties are also existing between 8 and 3. Okay. This, sorry, not between 8 and 3, it is between 9 and 1, right? 9, yes. It's between 9 and 1, there is one edge. 1 dominates 9, as well as there is one edge from 9 to 1. So these kind of loops where there is a concept of back edge, where the tail is dominating the head, that means that they are natural loops. Okay, simple concept which is meant by natural loops. Structured loops, unstructured loops, they are also types of natural loops. Okay, just you have to see whether there is a back edge or not. What is meant by the inner loop? If we use the natural loops as only term loops, then we have the useful property that unless two loops have the same header, they are either disjoint or one is nested within each other. And a nested loop is an inner loop if it contains no other loops. Okay, so this is one example of inner loop, and we see that when two loops have the same header, over here you see there are two loops, B0, B1, B2 to B0, B0, B1, B3 to B0. Okay, the two loops are having the same header, which is B0. So it is hard to tell which one is the inner loop. So depending upon the condition of B1, we can decide whether to go to B2 or to go to B3, right? So if we go to B2, then the inner loop will be B0, B1, B2, and it will loop in this portion. And if the inner loop is the condition is for this is not satisfied, then it's going to suppose B3, then the loop is between B0, B1 and B3. Okay, so when two natural loops have the same header but neither is nested within each other, they are combined and they can be treated as a single loop. Okay, so same concept as natural loop. Natural inner loops are kinds of some kind of natural loop. Okay, it's very simple, just the concept of loop is here. What is meant by preheader? Preheader means that we place one more extra block before our starting, which is the header. So several transformations may require us to move the statements before the header. So what is placed before the header is known as preheader. We therefore begin treatment of a loop L by creating a new block, which is called the preheader. The preheader has only the header as successor, and all edges which formerly entered the header now instead they enter the preheader, and the edges from the inside the loop to the header are not changed. Initially, this preheader is empty, but transformations on the loop may place some statements inside the preheader. What kind of statements can be placed inside the preheader? Suppose when you go to the header, some same computations are done, right? Some constants or same computations are done. So every time you need not compute the same thing, you can place those same computations, those results in a block before it, where you are naming it as preheader. So every time the computations need not be done, the values can be taken from the preheader itself. So this kind of loop transformations is known as code motion or strength reduction, which is meaning that we can replace some expensive operations by a cheap operation, like exponential operation by addition operation, or multiplication operation by addition operation, sorry, exponential by multiplication operation. So this is kind of loop optimization, which we'll study about this code motion, strength reduction in the later part of this chapter. So just to make you understand what is meant by this term preheader, we can place a preheader before our header in order to transform our loop, in order to optimize or transform our loop. Okay, so this is just to make our loop transformations easier, right? So the last topic for today's lecture is what is meant by reducible flow graphs. A flow graph is reducible if and only if we can partition the edges into two disjoint groups, forward edges and the backward edges, back edges. Okay. So basically there are two properties. If these two properties are satisfied, then they are reducible flow graphs. The forward edges, which form an acyclic group in which every node can be reached from the initial node of G, and the back edges consist only of edges whose heads dominate their tails. So let us look into this particular example. Okay, this example, suppose this is our control flow graph. We see that if we can find and remove all the back edges, then we will be left with only some forward edges. So there will be two disjoint partitions between forward edges and back edges. The remaining edges, if we remove the back edges, the remaining edges must be the forward edges if the graph is reducible. And to check whether a flow graph is reducible, this is sufficient to check if the forward edges form an acyclic graph. So how many back edges are there in this particular control flow graph? If you see that there are 5 back edges. One is from 4 to 3, okay. Second is from 7 to 4. Third is from this 8 to 3, okay. Fourth is from 9 to 1. And the last back edge we can consider is from 10 to 7. So 5 back edge. If we remove the 5 back edge, we see that all are forward edges, okay. And all the forward edges form an acyclic graph, right? No cycles are there. So this particular graph is reducible flow graph. Similarly, if you consider this example over here, if you consider this example, you see there is one back edge from 4 to 1. If you remove this back edge from 4 to 1, you are left with only forward edges which are forming your acyclic graph. So this particular control flow graph is reducible. So the definition is the forward edges form an acyclic graph in which every node can be reached from the initial node of G. So every node means 2, 3, 4. It can be reached from 1, right? And the back edges consist only of those edges whose heads dominates their tails. This is the head. This is dominating the tail, right? Whose heads dominates their tails means one dominates their 4 and there is an edge between 4 to 1. So you are having one back edge. So if you remove this back edge, you are left with one acyclic graph containing only forward edges. But why is this graph non-reducible? Because if you consider the initial node as 1, you see that this flow graph has no particular back edge, since the head of an edge dominates the tail of that edge, right? So if you consider this particular edge from 3 to 2 as the forward edge, then the back edge is from 2 to 3. So if you remove the back edge from 2 to 3, is the graph acyclic? 1 to 2 are, and can all the nodes be this 1 to 2, and there is no connection between this 2 to 3. So this flow is not correct, right? So cycle 2, 3 can be entered at two different places from nodes 2 and 3. And it appears that to have a loop consisting of nodes 2 and 3, but there is no back edge in which you have you cannot particularly determine which one edge is the back edge. So this particular graph is not sufficing to the two properties, okay. So this particular graph is non-reducible. So loops and flow graphs, in your syllabus you have this loops and flow graphs given. What is a loop and flow graph? But questions do not come as such, so you have to go through this, but keep in mind the basic concepts. The main concept I will teach in the main part of this chapter of code optimization. I will teach in the next video lecture, which is basically the strength reduction, the techniques of your code optimization. So you just from these slides, you just understand what is the concept of control flow graph, what is the meaning of structured and unstructured loop, what is meant by dominator, what is the dominator tree, what is meant by natural loops, inner loops, feeders, and what is meant by reducible flow graphs. Okay. So in the next video lecture, we will continue with the rest of this chapter, code optimization. Thank you.